In this video, we're going to be learning how to make a colorful emu. I'm going to show you how to draw the emu step by step, and then how you can use markers and crayons to create the colorful, furry texture on the emu's head and body. For this lesson, you're going to need a white piece of paper. Any size is fine. A pencil to draw with, an eraser in case we make a mistake, a black marker or pencil for outlining. I do suggest you outline the eyes and the beak of the emu. It'll help it stand out against the colorful fur. And whatever types of markers and crayons you would like to use for coloring. You may use one or the other for this lesson, or both if you like in your project. I'm going to actually show you how to use both markers and crayons in this video. So let's get started on our emu. Okay, so to begin our emu, we're going to actually start with the bird's beak, or its nose. We need to make it in the center of our paper. So you're going to want to take your finger and kind of figure out where you think the middle or the center of your paper is to help you get started. I don't want to draw the beak too small, but I don't want it to take up the entire paper because I do still have to put the eyes and of course the head and the body. So medium size will be the best. So I think my center is about right here. And I'm going to go right over my finger that I put down, and I'm going to make a curved line to start the top of the emu's beak. As always, I'm drawing in a marker so that you guys can see, but you should use a pencil so that you can erase if you make a mistake. I'm going to go right at the end of that curved line, and I'm going to make another curve, except this time I'm going to go sideways once, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side twice. I'm going to curve down almost a little bit more to a point and up to finish the shape of the emu's beak. An emu has a very pointed beak, so to make it look like it's pointed on our flat piece of paper, when I go to make the inside line, I'm not going to go straight across like a smile. I'm actually going to bend it down and then back up. It'll mimic the pointed direction of the emu's beak. Above that line, I'm going to make two ovals for the nostrils and take my pencil, or in this case my marker, and color them in so that I remember they're supposed to be black later on. There's the beak. Now I'm going to start the emu's eyes. So I'm going to go above the beak, and this time I'm going towards the side. Emus have big circle eyes towards the side of their head. So I'm going to start by making a curve once, leave some space, and I'm going to do the exact same thing again. A little trick, if you want to try to line your eyes up, is once you make the first one, you could always take your finger and go straight across, and that way you know how to start the second one so that they line up. And they're about the same size when you're done. I'm going to go right at the end of that curve, out and up to finish the circular eye. It's perfectly fine that this line is longer than the circle because that's going to help us start the eyelashes in a second because emus have long eyelashes. I'm going to do the exact same curve on the other side. And there's my two eyes. Inside the eye, I'm going to make a medium-sized circle, both sides, and I'm going to take my pencil or my marker and I'm going to color it in. Now, I like to leave that one little highlight spot when I color in my eyes. So if you notice, I made a little tiny circle. That little circle I will leave white, and I will color everything around it. You don't have to do that, but a lot of times when you look at eyes, whether it's a bird or an animal or a person, when the light hits your eyes, you always have a little white spot where the light reflects. So I like to put that in my drawings too. Do the same thing for the other eye. Now, once I have the inside of the eye colored, I'm going to add the eyelashes. So emus are an interesting bird, kind of like an ostrich. They have big eyes and these long eyelashes that you can definitely notice when you see a photo of them up close. So I'm going to go to those lines that I have left over sticking out. I'm just going to make them a little bit longer. And eyelashes can be different sizes. Do the same thing on the other side. If you want to put a few below, you can do that too. There you go. So now I have the eyes and the beak of my emu done. Before I go on to any other step, if you have a black marker or a black crayon, now would be a perfect time to outline your eyes and your beak so that they'll stand out against the colorful fur before we move further into the project. And I also like to color the eyes and the beak first before I do anything else. That way they won't get messed up when I get to the part with the fur. If you do that, it'll look a little like this. Here's mine, outlined and colored in. Usually the beak of a bird is either yellow or orange, so you can choose which one you'd like to use. And I made the eyes for my emu blue, but if you want to use another color, that's perfectly fine. So before we go on to the fur, we're going to use a pencil, and even I'm going to switch to a pencil now. And we're going to try to make a guideline for where the head and the neck would be. I'm going to draw lightly because this isn't meant to be seen later. It's just to help me understand where the fur would go when I add the color. So I'm going to go around the eyes and the beak and make a nice size circle so that I know this is where the head of the emu is. Underneath, I'm going to make 2 straight lines that come down from the head and touch the bottom of the paper. Drawing lightly is perfectly fine because, like I said, you're not going to see those pencil lines when you add the color. They're just to help you out. So you have a choice. You could use markers and crayons to make the fur. I'm going to show you how you can use both. If you want to use both in your project, go right ahead. Attached to the directions, I put an example of the face with the circle and the neck so that you could see what it would look like. And I also put a color wheel so that you can kind of decide what colors you might like best together when you go to make the fur. Maybe you have an idea already in your head, but the color wheel is always a great tool to help you out. Maybe you know you want to put red and purple together. Remember, colors that are close to each other on the color wheel look super great together. Colors that are far away from each other, they're going to really pop and stand out. So your choice what you'd like to do. I'm going to actually start with crayons first, and I'm going to start by using some reds and some yellows and some oranges and pinks because I know those are all warm colors, and the color wheel tells me that they look great together. So what I want to do is I want to make the fur come outwards on my emu. So I'm not going to actually take my crayons and just color in the shape because that would be kind of boring. So this time I'm going to pick a place to start. I'm going to actually start down here by the beak, and I'm going to color outwards as if I was making stripes. And I'm going to keep going until I don't want that color anymore. So you have a lot of choices when you color. Maybe you want the color to go all the way around. Maybe you want certain colors on the side of the emu's head and then different colors on the bottom and the top. Maybe you want to use different colors on the neck than you do on the face. You kind of have to plan it out a little bit. You notice I'm going back and forth when I color, and I'm being careful not to go over the eyes or the nose. So I think I'm going to use pink, and I think I'm going to use red. So I already used the red. Now I'm going to switch to some pink, and I'm going to put the pink on the bottom and on the top. Coloring this way creates texture in your picture. Visual texture. Texture is how something feels when you touch it. When you are making a drawing, you can't really describe how something feels when you touch it because it just feels like paper. So then we call it visual texture. meaning we could see the way it's supposed to look and feel. So if an emu is supposed to be furry, we can use that coloring technique to make the furry texture so we could see that it's supposed to feel fluffy and furry. So I'm gonna layer the colors. So I'm gonna actually now take another color, like orange, and I'm gonna put it on top of the colors that I just did. And I'm gonna go a little bit further into the emu's face, filling up more space. And I'm gonna switch to yellow and do the same thing. Back and forth, watching the eyes and the beak because I don't want to ruin them. That's why I colored them already, so that they wouldn't get all of this crazy colors on them. They would stand out. And I think I might just fill in some of this remaining space for now so that I don't have a big white spot in the center of the emu's head. Now when it comes to the neck, I can keep the same color scheme or I could pick new colors. I'm gonna actually switch to some warm colors. I'm gonna do some blues and purples and maybe a little green. Now because the neck goes in a different direction, I'm not gonna color out with my crayons, I'm going to color down. So that means my lines will go up and down. Here's blue. Notice I went over all of my pencil guidelines, which is what I wanted to do. They were just there to help me out, not to be permanently seen. If you do see them a little bit through your crayon or your marker, that's okay. They're just there to help you. And some purple. I'm gonna go all the way until I get to the bottom of the page. There you go. And maybe you want to put some more, I'll put some more purple up top. The best thing about crayons and markers is you can layer the colors so they can go on top of each other. And you can keep adding colors to your picture. You just have to plan out what colors you want to use before you start, because certain colors look better together. So that's crayons. Now, if I want to use markers, get some blue. If I want to use markers, it's pretty much the same thing. The example I showed in the beginning, this one is with markers. I still colored outwards and I still colored down on the neck. I just used markers instead of crayons. So if I was doing that, I would just kind of be going like stripes and layering the colors on top of each other. The more colors you put, the better it will look. Notice again, even with markers, I went around the eyes and around the beak, and I took my time to decide where I wanted the colors to go. I have different colors in the top and bottom than I do on the side. Now, you could use both markers and crayons in your picture, so if I wanted to, even if I started with crayons, I could switch to markers and add some markers also. Markers are darker than crayons, so they will show up on top of them, and they'll add another dimension of color to your pictures. So if you wanted to use both, that's perfectly fine. It actually looks really cool if you use both. Makes it super colorful. Here's some pink. Markers are going to come out a little bit lighter on some of the crayons, but you'll still be able to see them. your choice if you like to use both or one or the other. I mean, it looks pretty cool. Depends on what you have available to use or what you feel like doing. Make your emu as colorful as you want. Maybe you want to do rainbow order. That might be very cool. Okay, so once your emu's done, you have all the fur the way you want it to be. You're just going to add a simple background design. I'm just going to make some polka dots and swirls in mine. If you want to make stripes, you can make stripes. You want to do rainbow, do rainbow. I want to leave a little bit of white in the background though, because I do want all of my colors on my emu to stand out. So I'm not going to color in the entire piece of paper. I'm just going to make some simple designs. So here's my polka dots, and maybe I'll make some swirls. You choose what you like to do. And there you have it, all done. So take your time with your emus. Think about what colors you want to use before you get started. Decide if you want to use just crayons or just markers or a little bit of both. If you plan it out, it will look great when you are done. Take your time, do your best, and I can't wait to see your work.